Hello, everybody, and welcome to Investing for Fun. My name is Mike, and I'm an old geezer, as you can probably tell. You might think that I've been doing this investing thing for a long time, but you'd be wrong. In all actuality, I've just barely begun my investing journey. I started in December of 2023. It's now October of 2025. So I've been at it for about a year and 9 months, and it's been quite a journey. I am only doing it so that I can find out what's going on in the stock market world, and well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, if you're just beginning your stock market journey, you'll probably find that some of the information that I give out here is going to be interesting, because I've made a lot of mistakes. And, you can learn from my mistakes so you don't do the same thing. But I just thought that we'd try and bring this together and see what happens. So here we go. So now I've told you that I'm just beginning this, and these are crazy times we're living in. Today is October 7th, 2025, and the government is shut down currently. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it means that a lot of functions that the government does are being held back. The government has been really kind of crazy this last year. Since January, they've been doing a lot of odd things. Like, for instance, apparently the government now is buying shares of stock as well. So they're in the same position that I'm in, right? They're trying to buy stocks, and I'm trying to buy stocks and see what happens. And they have a little bit more power than I do in those kinds of things. I noticed, I saw one report where, the government has bought shares in Intel, which I found to be a good thing for me because I had some shares of Intel, and those shares have been going up since the government bought them. Ha ha. But apparently they can also, make strong suggestions to some of the companies that use things that Intel can provide, and they're going to them and saying, okay, this is now something that the U.S. government is involved in, and we suggest nicely that you use their services, and that way the stock will go up. I guess that's what they're doing. I have to admit, I'm not a very political person, but this year I've been following things that the government has been saying, mostly because, well, you have to. This administration is just doing so many crazy things, and it's affecting all of our lives. So I am making the effort to try and follow all these things. And my wife keeps saying, why do you keep all that stuff? Why are you looking at all that junk on the news and everything? And I'm like, I have to. We have a small store here in town, and the things that the government does affects us, especially things like the tariffs, which went into place in April of this year, which was, I think they kind of went into place, and then they were not into place, and then they were into place, and now we've kind of settled that down a little bit. I'm not sure. It seems like there's always some kind of news about this change or that change to the tariffs, especially if the current president doesn't really like the way that the companies are doing things. I don't know. But I will tell you this, I am trying to keep up with it all. And of course, some of it is affecting the way that I buy stocks. The other big thing that's going on right now is AI. And if you have been looking into buying stocks, which I hope you have, because it's kind of a neat thing. The AI has kind of taken over a lot of the stuff that's going on. But most people, when they're dealing with AI, they're looking at companies like NVIDIA, AMD, Supermicro, TSM, and maybe Micron. And those are the companies that are important because, NVIDIA makes chips, and Micron makes memory chips. One of the ones that I'm thinking about looking at real hard is Western Digital because they make hard drives. But all these data centers going into place, and there's so much more to it. Everybody looks at those particular companies, but you're going to need data centers to put all these things in. Obviously, you need the chips, right? You need the boxes that the chips go into. So that's where Supermicro and Dell come into play. You need some software to run, right? That's where Palantir is coming into works, and you need and Oracle is coming on strong now because of their database capabilities that they've been doing for a long time. And then you have the data centers. You're going to need buildings to put these data centers into. So there's some good opportunities in real estate investment trust stocks, which are sometimes called REITs or rates. I call them a rate. I don't know. Some people call them REITs. But, they are, there's something to be said about that. These servers all take up huge amounts of energy. So you're going to need energy companies to get involved. So you want to, find yourself some energy company stocks, especially those that are around the places where they're building the data centers. And then you have, the supply people who supply the power companies with their gas and their oils that they use to create the electricity. And it's just like a never-ending cycle of everything that's coming together. And everybody is kind of benefiting from this, right? Because these companies are going up in stock. They're getting more business because of all of these things. And it's really hard to kind of sort it all out. I get kind of lost in it myself. But fortunately, in my prior company that I was in, I did a lot of work with servers and with databases and all those kinds of things. So I'm kind of in tune with the information technology sector. So I have a fair amount of knowledge about what's going on in that area. So I tend to look at that stuff more closely than I do some of these other things. But one of the things that I thought was fascinating was there's actually stocks for companies who mine raw materials, and those raw materials are then combined with chemicals from another company that create the ability to make the chips. And then, of course, you have companies that physically make the chips, like TSM, and Intel is now starting to be big on that. And so they use the raw materials and the chemicals. They get the finished piece that they then take and they put stuff on, but they have to buy machines to do that. And those machines come from another company. And so now you have all of these things coming together. So you can get into AI without actually getting into the actual AI companies like ChatGPT or any of those things. I do kind of I did make one great move, and I'll talk about that later. But I was very surprised to see that I bought them when I just kind of heard that they were doing something, and doggone it if they didn't become really popular. So there's lots of opportunities out there, and I am sorting through it a little bit at a time. I've made some purchases, and I have to admit I've made some mistakes in those purchases, and I'm still living with those mistakes. And I will probably continue to live with those mistakes because I'm not one to go selling stocks a lot. I prefer my whole game plan, and again, I'm old, right? I'm 70 years old. So the idea of holding on to a stock for 30 years to wait for the company to do wonderful things is a real out of my grasp. I have, I hope, I can hang in there for another 5 or 10 years, maybe even 15, possibly 20. That would put me in my 90s. But I doubt very seriously if I'm going to make it for another 30 years. So essentially what I did is I'm doing this more as a hobby than as a money-making adventure. I am trying to learn about the stock buying properties. And so, I am not a good one to follow as far as if I say, oh, you should buy this particular stock. No, don't listen to me. I'm not good at that. But again, current events are like crazy. I did, I had a stock in a company called Kenvue, and they are the company that Johnson & Johnson spun off to sell all of their retail products like Band-Aids and lotions and potions and all that stuff, including Tylenol, which was a big one that they spun off to Kenvue. And recently, maybe a week ago or so, the president and RFK Jr. came out and said, oh, Tylenol is bad stuff. It causes autism, and immediately the stock dropped. Right? Everybody said, oh, I don't want to be a part of that, so they got out of it right away. And I'm holding on to it because I'm telling you, first of all, I don't believe Tylenol is a cause of autism, and even if it is, it's like, you gotta probably have to take 10,000 times the normal amount of pills to make it happen. I don't know. The way these people do things is like really weird. So I don't know that I believe in that, so I'm going to hold on to my Kenvue stock and see what happens. I did make a mistake with one company, which I thought was going to be a good company. I actually worked with their corporate office when I was back in my other job, and that company was Walgreens. And if you know anything about it, when I bought the stock, which was in December, one of my first stocks that I bought, December 2023, and I bought it at like $26 or something like that. And don't you know, within a few days, they dropped their dividend payment from 50 cents to 25 cents per share, and a whole bunch of people bailed out. And then we ended up with Walgreens being bought recently by a company that doesn't have any kind of stock or shares, And so basically, just one day, money showed up in my stock brokerage account, and the stock was no longer listed as one of mine. And I was kind of waiting to see what would happen because I had never lived through anything like that before. So I wanted to see what happened, and now you know that's what happens. So I'm kind of experimenting with a bunch of things to see what will happen, and follow along on my journey. I will try and remember the things that are occurring, and because the government is, like I said, they're doing strange things and causing all kinds of issues, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I have no idea, but the idea is to stay aware, stay and be ready to make the changes that need to be done. So anyway, I hope that's enough of an introduction, probably way too long, but I'm excited about getting started on this journey. I have been doing it, like I said, only a year and a half. It's not really worked out tremendously well for me, but in all honesty, even though I have some really big losers, I am up by about 32% from the time that I first started. So if you want to annualize that, it's probably about 15 or 16%, which isn't bad, and you can't get that at a bank. So, what the heck? So I'm going to keep at it, and hopefully you will too. Thanks. I will see you in the next video where hopefully we'll talk about some of the crazy stuff I've done.